The elevator doors opened with a soft ping, and Keisha Washington stepped into the most beautiful office she had ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the entire city of Atlanta below, and she could see people walking around like tiny ants. Her hands were shaking as she held her folder tight against her chest. This was it. This was her last chance. She had been looking for a job for 8 months now. 8 long months of rejection letters, interviews that went nowhere, and bills piling up on her kitchen table. Her mama had been sick for 2 years, and the medical bills were eating up everything. The small apartment they shared in southwest Atlanta was getting too expensive, and Keisha was running out of options. Ms. Washington? A woman with perfect hair and an expensive suit walked toward her. I'm Janet, Mr. Coleman's assistant. He's ready for you now. Keisha's heart started beating faster. She had heard about Marcus Coleman on the news. He was only 32 years old, but he had built a tech company worth billions. Everyone called him a genius. People said he was cold and mean, that he made people cry in interviews. But his company paid well, and they were known for helping their employees' families with medical bills. Thank you, Keisha said, trying to sound confident. She followed Janet down a long hallway lined with awards and pictures of Marcus Coleman shaking hands with important people. When they reached the office door, Janet knocked twice. Come in, said a deep voice from inside. The office was huge. Behind a massive desk sat Marcus Coleman himself. He was tall and handsome, with dark skin and kind eyes that looked tired. He was wearing a simple white shirt and black pants, no tie. For some reason, Keisha had expected him to look mean, but he just looked stressed. Please sit down, he said, pointing to a chair across from his desk. I've looked at your resume. You studied computer science at Spelman College. Good grades. But you've been out of work for 8 months. Why? Keisha took a deep breath. She had practiced this answer many times. I've been taking care of my mother. She has cancer and the treatments take a lot of time. I know it looks bad on paper, but I'm ready to work now. I need this job. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. I appreciate your honesty. Most people try to make up fancy reasons. But I have to ask, if your mother gets sicker, will you leave again? The question hit Keisha like a punch to the stomach. She thought about her mama lying in bed this morning, too weak to eat breakfast. She thought about the bills on the table, the rent that was due next week, the medicine they couldn't afford. No, sir, she said quietly. I won't leave. This job, it's everything to me right now. Marcus picked up a pen and started writing notes on a pad. Keisha tried to read what he was writing, but it was upside down. She could only make out a few words. Then she saw something that made her heart stop. At the bottom of the page, in Marcus's handwriting, she could clearly see the words, already married to you. Her face got hot. Was he making fun of her? Was this some kind of joke? She stared at the paper, reading it again and again. Already married to you. What did that mean? Marcus looked up and caught her staring. Is something wrong? No, sir. Nothing's wrong. But inside, Keisha was confused and hurt. She had come here hoping for a job, hoping for a chance to save her family. And now this rich man was playing games with her. Tell me about your biggest failure, Marcus said, still writing on his pad. Keisha's mind went blank. She couldn't think about failures right now. All she could think about was those words on the paper. Already married to you. It didn't make sense. She had never met this man before today. She had never even applied to his company until last week. I failed my mother, she said finally. When she first got sick, I tried to handle everything myself. I didn't ask for help. I didn't research the best doctors. I just took her to the closest hospital and hoped for the best. By the time I realized I needed to do more, the cancer had spread. If I had been smarter, if I had been braver, maybe she would be getting better now instead of getting worse. Marcus stopped writing and looked at her. For the first time since she walked in, his face looked soft. That's not failure. That's love. Sometimes love makes us do things that don't make sense to other people. Keisha felt tears starting to form in her eyes. She blinked them back quickly. She couldn't cry in this interview. She couldn't show weakness. One more question, Marcus said. Why do you want to work for Coleman Tech specifically? This was the question Keisha had been dreading. She couldn't tell him the truth that she had applied to 50 companies and this was the only one that called her back. She couldn't tell him that she had researched his company's benefits and knew they would help with her mother's medical bills. I believe in what your company stands for, she said. I've read about your work in the community. I know you grew up in the same neighborhood where I live now. I think you understand what it's like to need a chance. Marcus nodded slowly. He wrote something else on his pad, then closed it. I'll be in touch within the next few days. Thank you for coming in today. Keisha stood up, shaking his hand. His grip was firm and warm. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Coleman." As she walked toward the door, she heard him call her name. "Ms. Washington?" She turned around. "I hope things work out for you and your mother." The kindness in his voice almost made her cry right there. She managed to say thank you, and then walked out as quickly as she could. In the elevator going down, Keisha replayed the interview in her head. It had gone better than she expected, except for that strange note. "Already married to you." She couldn't get it out of her mind. What did it mean? Was it about her? Was it about someone else? Was she losing her mind? By the time she got to the parking garage, she had convinced herself that she had read it wrong. Maybe it said something else. Maybe her nerves had made her see things that weren't there. But deep down, she knew what she had seen. And she knew that whatever it meant, it was going to change everything. 3 days later, Keisha was sitting in the hospital waiting room, holding her mother's hand. The chemotherapy treatment was taking longer than usual, and her mama looked so small in the big chair. The medicine was dripping slowly into her arm through a thin tube. "Baby, you look worried," her mother said softly. "More worried than usual." Keisha tried to smile. "I'm always worried about you, Mama. That's my job." "No, this is different. This is about that job interview, isn't it?" Keisha's mother, Dorothy Washington, had always been able to read her daughter's mind. Even when she was sick, even when the medicine made her confused, she could still see right through Keisha's attempts to hide things. "I think I messed it up," Keisha said quietly. "There was something strange about the whole thing. I can't explain it." "Tell me," Dorothy said. Keisha looked around the waiting room. It was full of people who looked just like them, tired, worried, hoping for good news. She lowered her voice. "I saw something on his desk. A note. It said, 'Already married to you.' It doesn't make sense, Mama. I've never met this man before." Dorothy was quiet for a long moment. Then she squeezed Keisha's hand. "Baby, sometimes God works in mysterious ways. Maybe you didn't meet him, but maybe he knows you somehow." "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe there's more to this story than you think. Maybe you should wait and see what happens before you decide it was strange." Before Keisha could respond, her phone started ringing. She looked at the screen and her heart jumped. It was a number she didn't recognize, but the area code was from downtown Atlanta. "Hello? Ms. Washington? This is Janet from Coleman Tech. Mr. Coleman would like to speak with you. Can you hold for a moment?" Keisha's hands started shaking again. "Yes, I can hold." She looked at her mother, who was watching her with curious eyes. "It's him," Keisha whispered. "Ms. Washington?" Marcus Coleman's voice came through the phone, and Keisha stood up quickly, walking to a corner of the waiting room where she could talk privately. "Yes, Mr. Coleman. I'm here. I wanted to call you personally about the position. I've made my decision." Keisha's heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. This was it. This was the moment that would decide everything. "I'd like to offer you the job," Marcus said. "Senior software developer, starting salary is $90,000 a year, plus full health benefits for you and your family." Keisha's legs felt weak. She had to lean against the wall to keep from falling down. $90,000. More money than she had ever dreamed of making. Health benefits for her mama. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Thank you so much." "There's just one condition," Marcus said, and Keisha's heart sank. "I'd like you to start on Monday. I know it's short notice, but we have a big project coming up and we need someone with your skills right away." "Monday is perfect," Keisha said quickly. "I'll be there." "Good. Janet will email you all the details. And Ms. Washington? I'm looking forward to working with you." After he hung up, Keisha stood in the corner of the waiting room, staring at her phone. She had gotten the job. She had actually gotten the job. For the first time in 8 months, she felt like she could breathe. She walked back to her mother, who was watching her with a big smile. "I got it, Mama. I got the job." Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. "I knew you would, baby. I knew it. The pay is good. Really good. And they have health insurance that will cover your treatments. Better treatments than what we can get now." "That's wonderful, baby. But I want to ask you something." "What? Are you sure you want this job just for the money? Or is there something else?" Keisha sat down next to her mother. "What do you mean?" "I mean, when you talked about that interview, you didn't just sound confused. You sounded interested. Like this Mr. Coleman was someone you wanted to know better." "Mama, I don't even know him." "But you want to." Keisha was quiet for a moment. Her mother was right as usual. There had been something about Marcus Coleman that she couldn't stop thinking about. It wasn't just his money or his success. It was the way he had looked at her when she talked about her mother. It was the kindness in his voice when he said he hoped things worked out for them. Maybe I do want to know him better, Keisha said finally. But that's not why I took the job. I took it because we need the money. I know, baby. But maybe God has other plans too. That night, Keisha couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the note she had seen on Marcus's desk. Already married to you. She had tried to convince herself that she had read it wrong, but she knew she hadn't. The words were burned into her memory. She got up and walked to her laptop. She typed Marcus Coleman into the search engine and started reading everything she could find about him. Most of it was business stuff, articles about his company, interviews about his success, pictures of him at fancy events. But then she found something that made her stop breathing. It was an old article from a college newspaper. The headline read, "Local Student Wins Programming Competition." The article was from 6 years ago when Keisha was still in college. It talked about a programming competition that had been held at several colleges in Atlanta. The winner was a student from Spelman College named Keisha Washington. The article included a quote from Marcus Coleman, who had been one of the judges. He said, "Ms. Washington's work was exceptional. She has a natural talent for coding and a creative approach to problem solving. I would be honored to work with her someday." Keisha read the article 3 times. She remembered the competition now. She remembered winning and she remembered meeting the judges briefly. But she didn't remember Marcus Coleman specifically. There had been several judges, and she had been so nervous and excited that their faces had all blurred together. But he had remembered her. For 6 years he had remembered her. Suddenly the note on his desk made sense. Not, "Already married to you," but maybe, "Already want to hire you," or, "Already impressed by you." Maybe she had misread it in her nervousness. Or maybe not. Maybe there was something else going on. Something she didn't understand yet. She closed her laptop and tried to go back to sleep. But she couldn't stop thinking about Monday. Her first day at Coleman Tech. Her first day working for a man who had remembered her for 6 years. A man who might be hiding something important. Monday morning came too quickly. Keisha stood in front of her closet, trying to decide what to wear. Everything she owned seemed too old, too cheap, too wrong for a job at a billion-dollar company. Finally, she chose a simple black dress that her mother had bought her for graduation. It was the nicest thing she owned. "You look beautiful, baby," Dorothy said from the doorway. She was having a good day, which meant she could get out of bed and walk around a little. "And you look nervous." "I am nervous," Keisha admitted. "What if I can't do the job? What if I'm not smart enough?" "You won the programming competition in college. You graduated with honors. You're smart enough." Dorothy walked over and hugged her daughter. "But there's something else bothering you, isn't there?" Keisha had told her mother about the article she found, about Marcus remembering her from 6 years ago. But she hadn't told her about the strange feeling she had, like there was something important she was missing. "I just feel like he's not telling me everything," Keisha said. "Like there's a reason he hired me that has nothing to do with my qualifications." "Maybe there is," Dorothy said. "But maybe it's a good reason. Maybe you should give him a chance to explain." Keisha kissed her mother goodbye and drove to downtown Atlanta. The Coleman Tech building was 60 floors tall, all glass and steel, reaching into the sky like a mountain. She parked in the garage and took the elevator to the 40th floor, where the software development team worked. Janet was waiting for her in the lobby. "Good morning, Ms. Washington. Ready for your first day?" "I think so," Keisha said, trying to sound confident. "Mr. Coleman wanted to see you first before you meet your team. He's in his office." They took another elevator up to the 60th floor. Keisha's stomach was doing flips. Why did Marcus want to see her before she started work? Was he going to explain about the article? Was he going to tell her the real reason he hired her? When they reached his office, Marcus was standing by the window looking out at the city. He turned when he heard them come in, and Keisha was surprised to see that he looked nervous too. "Ms. Washington, welcome to Coleman Tech. I hope you're ready to get started." "I am, Mr. Coleman. Thank you again for this opportunity." Marcus nodded to Janet, who left them alone. Then he walked over to his desk and picked up a folder. "Before you start working, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you in the interview." "Here it comes," Keisha thought. "Here's where he tells me the truth." "I remember you from college," Marcus said. "From the programming competition. You probably don't remember me, but I was one of the judges." "Actually, I do remember now," Keisha said. "I found the article online. You said you would be honored to work with me someday." Marcus looked surprised. "You found the article?" "I was curious about you after the interview. I wanted to know more about the company." She paused. "I wanted to know more about you. They stood there looking at each other for a moment. Then Marcus walked around his desk and sat down. The truth is, I've been following your career since then. Not in a creepy way, he added quickly. But I kept track of where you went to school, what you did after graduation. I always hoped you would apply to work here. So when I applied last week, I made sure you got an interview. I made sure you were the last candidate I saw because I already knew I wanted to hire you. Keisha felt a mix of emotions. She was relieved that he wasn't playing games with her, but she was also a little angry. So I didn't get this job because I was qualified. I got it because you remembered me from college. No, Marcus said firmly. You got this job because you're the most qualified person I've ever interviewed. The fact that I remembered you just made me excited to work with you again. Again? We never worked together before. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he opened the folder on his desk and pulled out a piece of paper. Do you remember your final project in college? The one you presented at the competition? Of course. It was a program to help small businesses manage their inventory. I've been using that program for 6 years, Marcus said. I bought the rights to it from the college. It's the foundation of one of our most successful products. Keisha's mouth fell open. What? Your program, with some modifications, is now used by thousands of businesses. It's made millions of dollars for Coleman Tech. And you never knew. I had no idea. The college had the rights to all student projects. They sold it to me for a fair price. But I always felt like you deserved more credit. More money. More recognition. Keisha sat down hard in the chair across from his desk. This was too much to process. Her college project had been making money for 6 years, and she had been struggling to find a job. Is that why you hired me? She asked. Because you feel guilty? No, Marcus said. I hired you because I want to work with the person who created that program. I want to see what else you can do. I want to give you the chance you should have had 6 years ago. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Keisha asked the question that had been bothering her since the interview. What did that note on your desk say? The one you were writing during the interview? Marcus looked confused. What note? I saw you writing something. It looked like it said, already married to you. I've been trying to figure out what it meant. Marcus stared at her for a moment. Then he started laughing. Not mean laughing, but the kind of laughing that comes from relief and surprise. You saw that? Yes. What did it mean? Marcus opened his desk drawer and pulled out the pad he had been writing on. He flipped to the page from the interview and showed it to her. It doesn't say, already married to you. It says, already want to hire you. Keisha looked at the paper. He was right. The handwriting was messy, and from upside down, it had looked like something completely different. I wrote that before you even started answering questions, Marcus said. I had already decided to hire you. The interview was just a formality. Keisha felt her face get hot with embarrassment. I don't know what I thought. You thought I was some kind of creep who was playing games with you. Maybe a little. Marcus leaned back in his chair. I can understand why you would think that. Rich guy, young woman looking for a job. It probably looked suspicious. It did. But I'm glad I was wrong. Me too. Marcus stood up. Are you ready to meet your team now? They're excited to work with you. Yes, I'm ready. As they walked toward the door, Marcus stopped. Ms. Washington? Keisha? Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you happy? About the job, I mean. Are you happy to be here? Keisha thought about her mother at home, probably taking her medicine right now. She thought about the bills on the kitchen table that she would finally be able to pay. She thought about the health insurance that would get her mama better treatments. Yes, she said. I'm very happy to be here. But as they walked down the hall, she realized that her happiness wasn't just about the money or the benefits. It was about the man walking next to her, the man who had remembered her for 6 years, the man who had built a business on her college project and wanted to give her the credit she deserved. For the first time in a long time, Keisha felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 2 weeks into her new job, Keisha was starting to feel like she belonged at Coleman Tech. Her team was smart and friendly, and the work was challenging but not overwhelming. She was making good money, and her mother's new insurance had already approved better treatments. But the best part of her day was when Marcus would stop by her desk to check on her work. He would ask about her projects, offer suggestions, and sometimes just talk about life. She was starting to see a different side of him, not the serious businessman from the interview, but someone who was funny and kind and genuinely interested in what she had to say. How's your mother doing? Marcus asked one afternoon. He was sitting on the edge of her desk, looking at the code she was writing on her computer. She's doing better, Keisha said. The new treatment is working. She has more energy, and her test results are improving. That's great news. I'm glad the insurance is helping. It's helping a lot. I can't thank you enough for this job. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something? It might be too personal. Go ahead. What's it like taking care of someone you love when they're sick? I've never had to do that. Keisha saved her work and turned to face him. It's scary. Every day you wake up wondering if this is the day you're going to lose them. And you feel helpless because there's nothing you can do to fix it. All you can do is be there and hope it's enough. That sounds really hard. It is. But it's also, I don't know how to explain it. It makes you realize what's important. Before my mama got sick, I was worried about stupid things. Like whether I was pretty enough or smart enough or successful enough. Now I know that none of that matters. What matters is being there for the people you love. Marcus nodded slowly. I think I understand. I've been so focused on building this company that I forgot about everything else. I don't have close relationships with my family. I don't have many friends. I have money and success, but I don't have what you have. What do you mean? I mean someone who loves me enough to take care of me when I need it. Someone who would sacrifice everything to make sure I'm okay. Keisha felt her heart break a little for him. You could have that. You just have to let people in. I'm not good at letting people in. I've been hurt before and I learned that it's easier to keep people at a distance. That's not living, Keisha said. That's just surviving. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Marcus stood up. I should let you get back to work. But Keisha? Thank you. For talking to me. For being honest. Anytime. That night, Keisha couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. She had seen something in Marcus's eyes when he talked about being alone. It was the same look she had seen in her own eyes when she looked in the mirror during the worst days of her mother's illness, the look of someone who was carrying too much weight by themselves. The next morning she brought an extra cup of coffee to work and knocked on Marcus's office door. Come in, he called. I brought you coffee, she said, setting the cup on his desk. I know you're always drinking that fancy stuff from the machine downstairs, but I thought you might want to try some real coffee. Marcus smiled. Real coffee? My grandmother's recipe. My mama taught me how to make it. It's strong but it's good. He took a sip and his eyes widened. This is amazing. What's in it? Family secret, Keisha said with a grin. But I'll make it for you whenever you want. I'd like that. They fell into a routine. Every morning, Keisha would bring Marcus coffee and they would talk for a few minutes before starting work. Sometimes they talked about business, sometimes about their families, sometimes about nothing important at all. Keisha learned that Marcus had grown up poor in East Atlanta just like she had. His mother had worked 3 jobs to put him through college, and she had died of a heart attack 2 years after he started his company. He had been so busy building his business that he hadn't spent much time with her in her final years, and he regretted it every day. I keep thinking I'll visit her grave when I have time, he told Keisha one morning. But there's always something else that needs to be done. Another meeting, another project, another crisis. When was the last time you went? Keisha asked. Her birthday. 3 months ago. Marcus, you need to go. Not for her, she knows you love her. But for you. You need to forgive yourself. I don't know how. Start by showing up. The rest will come later. That afternoon, Marcus left work early for the first time in years. He drove to the cemetery in East Atlanta and sat by his mother's grave for 2 hours. He told her about his company, about his success, about the smart woman who had been helping him remember what was important. When he came back to work the next day, he looked different. Lighter somehow. How did it go? Keisha asked when she brought him his coffee. It was hard. But it was good. Thank you for pushing me to do it. That's what friends do. Marcus looked at her. Are we friends? I think we are. Good. Because I was hoping you might want to have dinner with me sometime. As friends? He added quickly. Keisha smiled. I'd like that. But I should warn you, I'll probably have to bring my mama. She doesn't like to be alone for too long. I'd love to meet her. I bet she's as amazing as you are. She is. She's the strongest person I know. That Saturday, Marcus came to their apartment for dinner. He brought flowers for Dorothy and a bottle of wine for Keisha. He also brought something else, a check for $50,000. What's this? Keisha asked. It's your share of the profits from your college project. I calculated what you would have earned if you had been a partner in the company from the beginning. It's not everything you deserve, but it's a start. Keisha stared at the check. I can't take this. Yes, you can. You earned it. Dorothy spoke up from the couch. Take the money, baby. You've earned it and we need it. But it's too much. No, Marcus said. It's not enough. But it's what I can give you right now without getting in trouble with the lawyers. Keisha looked at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. Then she looked at Marcus, who was watching her with hopeful eyes. Thank you, she said finally. This means everything to us. You mean everything to me, Marcus said quietly. Both of you. As they ate dinner, Keisha watched Marcus talking with her mother about her treatments, her hobbies, her life before she got sick. He was genuinely interested in what she had to say, and Dorothy was laughing more than she had in months. After dinner, Marcus helped Keisha wash dishes while Dorothy rested on the couch. I like her, he said. She's funny and smart and strong. I can see where you get it from. She likes you too. She told me earlier that you have kind eyes. Do I? Keisha looked at him. Yes, you do. They stood at the sink, washing dishes and talking quietly. Outside it was getting dark and the apartment felt warm and cozy. For the first time in years, Keisha felt like she was part of something bigger than just her and her mother's illness. She felt like she was part of a family. 3 months later, Keisha was sitting in a doctor's office, holding her mother's hand and trying not to cry. The doctor was smiling, which was a good sign, but she was afraid to hope too much. The scans show that the cancer is in complete remission, Dr. Martinez said. We'll continue to monitor you closely, but right now, there's no sign of the disease anywhere in your body. Dorothy squeezed her daughter's hand. Are you saying I'm cured? I'm saying the treatment worked better than we expected. Your body responded beautifully to the new medication. Of course, we'll need to keep checking, but this is the best possible outcome. Keisha finally let herself cry. Happy tears, relief tears, grateful tears. Her mother was going to be okay. When can I go back to work? Dorothy asked. Before she got sick, she had been a teacher at an elementary school. Let's give it another month or 2. But if you continue to feel this good, I don't see why you can't go back to doing the things you love. They drove home in comfortable silence. Keisha kept glancing at her mother, who was looking out the window with a peaceful expression. She looked healthy again. She looked like herself. I want to call Marcus, Dorothy said suddenly. He should know. You want to call him? He's been asking about me every day for 3 months. He brings me books and flowers and those fancy teas from the expensive store. He cares about what happens to me. He cares about you because he cares about me. Dorothy turned to look at her daughter. Baby, when are you going to admit that you're in love with that man? Mama, we're just friends. He's my boss. He's not just your boss. He's the man who remembered you for 6 years. He's the man who hired you when you needed a job. He's the man who gave you money that you earned but never got paid for. He's the man who comes to our apartment every Saturday night to eat dinner and play cards with your sick mother. Keisha was quiet for a moment. I am in love with him. I know you are. And he's in love with you too. How do you know? Because he looks at you the way your father used to look at me. Like you're the most wonderful thing he's ever seen. When they got home, Keisha called Marcus at work. She's okay, she said as soon as he answered. The cancer's gone. That's amazing news. How do you feel? I feel like I can breathe again. Like I can think about the future instead of just surviving today. I'm so happy for you. For both of you. Are you celebrating tonight? We're going to have a quiet dinner at home. Maybe watch a movie. Can I come over? I want to congratulate Dorothy in person. Of course. She was hoping you would. Marcus arrived an hour later with a bottle of champagne and a bouquet of flowers bigger than Keisha had ever seen. He hugged Dorothy carefully, and then he hugged Keisha longer than friends usually hug. I was so worried, he whispered in her ear. I didn't know how much I was worried until right now. They had a wonderful dinner, talking and laughing and making plans for the future. Dorothy talked about going back to teaching. Keisha talked about a new project she was working on at Coleman Tech. Marcus talked about expanding the company and opening new offices. After dinner, Dorothy announced that she was tired and was going to bed early. She kissed them both good night and went to her room, but Keisha suspected she was just giving them privacy. I have something for you, Marcus said when they were alone. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small box. Keisha's heart jumped. Marcus, what is this? Open it. Inside the box was a beautiful necklace with a small diamond pendant. It was elegant and simple and perfect. It's beautiful, Keisha said. But I can't accept this. Yes, you can. It's not an engagement ring or anything like that. It's just a gift from someone who cares about you. Someone who cares about me? Marcus took the necklace from the box and moved behind her to put it on. His hands were gentle as he fastened it around her neck. Someone who's been in love with you since the day you walked into my office, he said quietly. Someone who's been too scared to tell you because he didn't want to ruin what we have. Keisha turned around to face him. Marcus, I know we said we were just friends. I know I'm your boss. I know it's complicated. But I can't pretend anymore. I love you, Keisha. I love your strength and your kindness and your laugh. I love the way you take care of your mother. I love the way you make me want to be a better person. I love you too, Keisha said. I have for a while now. I just didn't know how to tell you. Marcus smiled and took her hands. So what do we do now? We take it slow, Keisha said. We figure it out together. We see where this goes. I'd like that very much. He leaned down and kissed her softly. It was their first kiss and it felt like coming home. 1 year later, Keisha was standing in her childhood church, wearing her grandmother's wedding dress. The church was full of people from Coleman Tech, friends from college, and neighbors from the community. But the most important person there was her mother, sitting in the front row, healthy and strong and crying happy tears. Marcus stood at the altar, looking handsome in his black suit. When Keisha walked down the aisle, he started crying too. Not embarrassed crying, but the kind of crying that comes from pure joy. You look beautiful, he whispered when she reached him. You look pretty good yourself, she whispered back. The ceremony was simple and short. They had written their own vows, and when it was Marcus's turn to speak, he looked out at the congregation and then back at Keisha. 6 years ago, I met a brilliant woman at a programming competition. She impressed me with her intelligence and her creativity. But I didn't know then that she would also teach me how to love, how to be vulnerable, how to be part of a family. Keisha, you saved my life in ways you don't even know. You showed me that success isn't just about money or business. It's about the people you choose to share your life with. When it was Keisha's turn, she looked at Marcus and then at her mother. I used to think that love meant sacrifice. I thought it meant giving up your own dreams to take care of someone else. But Marcus taught me that real love means supporting each other's dreams. It means being partners in everything. It means building something beautiful together. After they were pronounced husband and wife, they walked back down the aisle hand in hand. Outside the church, their friends and family threw rice and cheered. Mrs. Coleman, Marcus said, how does it feel? It feels perfect, Keisha said. It feels like the beginning of everything. At the reception, Dorothy gave a speech that made everyone cry. She talked about watching her daughter struggle and worry and sacrifice for 2 years. She talked about the day Keisha got the job at Coleman Tech and how it changed everything. She talked about Marcus becoming part of their family. I used to worry about who would take care of Keisha when I'm gone, Dorothy said. But I don't worry about that anymore. I know she's found someone who will love her and support her and be her partner in all the adventures to come. Later that night, Marcus and Keisha sat on the porch of their new house, still in their wedding clothes, watching the stars. Do you think we would have found each other if your mother hadn't gotten sick? Marcus asked. I don't know, Keisha said. Maybe. But maybe not. Maybe everything that happened was supposed to happen exactly the way it did. I'm glad it did. I'm glad you needed a job. I'm glad you saw that note on my desk, even if you read it wrong. I'm glad you remembered me from college. I'm glad you kept my program all these years. I'm glad you make the best coffee in the world. Keisha laughed. I'm glad you like it. They sat in comfortable silence, holding hands and thinking about the future. In a few months, they would launch a new program at Coleman Tech to help other families dealing with medical crises. They would call it the Dorothy Washington Foundation, after the woman who had taught them both about strength and love. I love you, Mrs. Coleman, Marcus said. I love you too, Mr. Coleman. As they sat there under the stars, Keisha thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The fear, the worry, the uncertainty. The job interview that had changed everything. The friendship that had grown into love. The mother who had fought cancer and won. It hadn't been easy. There had been times when she thought they wouldn't make it, times when she was so scared she couldn't see past the next day. But they had made it through together and now they were starting a new chapter. What are you thinking about? Marcus asked. I'm thinking about how sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best things. If my mama hadn't gotten sick, I never would have applied for that job. If I hadn't gotten that job, we never would have met again. If we hadn't met again, we never would have fallen in love. So you're saying cancer brought us together? I'm saying that sometimes God uses difficult things to bring about beautiful things. And this, she gestured between them, this is beautiful. Marcus squeezed her hand. Yes, it is. They stayed on the porch until late, talking about their dreams and plans. They talked about the house they wanted to build, the children they wanted to have, the places they wanted to travel. They talked about growing old together, about supporting each other through whatever life brought their way. When they finally went inside, Keisha looked back at the night sky one more time. She whispered a prayer of gratitude for everything that had led her to this moment. For the struggles that had made her strong. For the mother who had taught her about love. For the man who had remembered her for 6 years and was now her husband. It was the perfect ending to a story that had started with so much fear and uncertainty. But as Keisha had learned, sometimes the best endings come from the most difficult beginnings. And this ending was just the beginning of their life together.